Okay, Graham Zimmerman.
Good God, here we go. My name's Graham Zimmerman, and what do I do for a living? It really all starts in climbing. Working as a professional alpinist. I go to these wild corners of the world, climbing in New Zealand, in Alaska, in the Pakistani Karakoram, and I love it. But it certainly came with a price of a lot of plane flights, a lot of times sitting and driving in a car, a lot of ropes, a lot of tents, a lot of jackets. But to be honest, I was so focused on climbing that I didn't really give a damn about anything else. So, I mean, who am I to be an advocate for climate change? Over the last 10 or 15 years, I've really been focused on developing this kind of athlete brand, Graham Zimmerman Alpinist. And what that means is I work with a variety of different companies, and they support me to go to the biggest mountains of the world and try to do things that have never been done before. But at some point, as I've been spending more time in the mountains, I felt like there was kind of a reckoning. This is a space on which you rely. This is a space that you love. It's also, doesn't hide much. When changes are happening, you can see them there. I graduated from university in 2007, studied glacial down in southeastern New Zealand. So I'm spending all this time in the mountains. I have this background in science, but when you're in your early 20s, it's pretty easy to just kind of have your head in the sand. And I recognize now that it's becoming harder and harder to ignore. Changes that we see in alpine landscapes caused by human carbon emissions. And actually experiencing that with your own senses in that space. It's really hard. And it really makes you question the work that you're doing. But I didn't want to give up climbing. I didn't want to stop this momentum that I had generated as an athlete. I'm getting a weird kind of impingement back here, it feels like. I spent the last 15 years of my life abusing the shit out of my body. I'm paying for it. You feel that click?
Yes, I did.
Who am I to be an advocate for climate change? I'm somebody who goes on the other side of the world and does this climbing thing, and that really felt like there would be so much hypocrisy within that stance that it would make it ineffective, and it would just wouldn't work. Let's see. Just got in from the Ouray Ice Festival, and then tomorrow I fly out to Boston and then drive up to North Conway, New Hampshire, where we're going to another ice festival. A lot of spending time on airplanes in this job. I feel like I had all of the tools to be an advocate, but they were totally outweighed by my doubts. A couple of years ago, I bumped into one of the folks from Protect Our Winters. Protect Our Winters is a climate advocacy organization. Their whole goal is to essentially weaponize athletes to be climate advocates.
Athletes are known storytellers. They have a following of people who want to hear those stories, and being able to effectively talk about the ways that climate change is impacting their ability to enjoy and experience the places that they love.
she just kind of said, listen, like with your background, like why aren't you working as a climate advocate? Kind of laid out all these excuses for her, and her response was like, oh no, you're like the perfect person to be a climate advocate. And that's kind of where my journey as a climate activist started. And it would be really nice if all my concerns about being kind of an imperfect advocate went away, but they didn't. It's like, man, like, is this really the best way to be a climate activist? Hey guys.
Hi.
It's good to see everybody.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
So you guys are the environmental club, correct?
Yes.
Cool.
Do you guys have questions for Graham, just about any of his like advocacy things he does? That's difficult.
Have you like stopped flying and driving and stuff because of like the carbon emissions?
I haven't. I have tried to be. I have started trying to be more intentional with my carbon footprint, but like, I mean, I'm on like 2 flights this week, and I don't know that I have like a super clear answer for you guys about like, here is the solution.
I know you said that you want to move forward and you want to like get new technology, and like as someone in the spotlight, it just seems like it becomes really hard if we're not the ones who are going to stop driving, then who is?
Here's what you can do to, you know, have an impact. Here's what other people are doing. And I think daily choices, because I think it's not necessarily one thing, but sort of like reducing in multiple areas.
Let's see. So I feel like we have ice festivals all over the country. They bring me out to tell stories, teach them how to ice climb. And I want you to push with your left foot and roll through. Teaching them how to bring it into a zone of inner peace. Finding the zen on the climb. You guys gonna do more?
Graham's a great motivated climber, and it's the most ideal messenger for climate because we know, hey, this is what's going on, this is what it's looking like, and he can be that guy to talk about it.
And you were talking about the confluence between that and your like love of the environment. Yeah. Conrad is one of the best when it comes to alpine climbing. And he's been somebody who really welcomed me to the tribe of hard alpine climbers.
The ice is world class here. It's a really unique setting and a beautiful place to be. Check, awesome. The community's having a good time climbing and swapping stories, enjoying nature. It's a Midwest spirit.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm a warrior for the climate because I love being out here. If we see change, it's up to us as outdoor enthusiasts to report that to the world.
And so I'd like to bring to the stage Graham Zimmerman.
Thanks, Bill. So we're gonna do a panel tonight, guys, and I'm gonna bring these guys up here. It's a great time for us to discuss the changes that we've seen in the big mountains of the world.
Where we go and what we see at the high altitude and high latitude parts of this planet are the most rapidly affected areas due to climate change. So we have to speak out on behalf of the glaciers and the flowers, the mountain goats, the birds, the whole ecosystem that's out there that we are very much a part of, but if it does not succeed, humans do not succeed. So it's not about saving the planet, it's about saving humanity. And at the core of that is how we address carbon.
I've realized that being able to go outside for outdoor recreation is an incredible privilege. And climate change, it's really about speaking up for the people who are losing their homes and their lives and make it much bigger than just our outdoor privilege.
We can stop this now if we make it all of our problem, and that's the one thing that we have yet to do. What we're really talking about is having a majority of the population care about preserving our ability to live comfortably on this planet, and that includes people of color, many of whom will never go skiing a day in their life, but they still need fresh air and clean water.
To care for the environment, you have to love it. You have to be drawn to it. And if we can teach that, we're doing the right thing.
All of these different issues, they all matter. Understanding those places where they come together, that's something I've been working really hard on. It feels really nice to kind of be out in the cold, what it feels like to have your fingertips a little frozen. Your lungs feel that cold air coming in. And I mean, it's winter. It's magical. That's what we're trying to protect. This is it. I love this stuff. Right now, we're headed down to the lower peninsula, to the universities there. We're definitely stepping outside of my community, outside of my bubble, and outside of my comfort zone.
Should we dive in? Yeah. Okay, cool.
I am a professional mountain climber focused on putting up new routes in what we refer to as the greater ranges, where all of our 8,000 meter peaks are, all the things that are really, really, really tall. And they're also where I've started to see things changing. This is Chamonix around the turn of the century, the last century. This is what it looks like there now. This is up in Canada in 2009. This is 8 years later. I kind of came to the realization that A, climbing is really wonderful, but is it really that important? Like, maybe it's only important when it applies to what I can do with my climbing. We do not solve this problem by sitting back and doing nothing, which seems very, very basic. And so, what does it mean to be an imperfect advocate? When it comes down to it, the most effective tool that we have are our stories. And that is something that each of you have. Now, we're going to talk about Powell's vision here, which is action over apathy, which is the idea that you have to do something. Our American representative democracy is currently under a lot of stress because of big business, because of big business's influence in our democracy, and because people aren't voting. And how do we reduce that stress? We engage. So let's get at it together and be supportive of each other. Does that make sense? Woo! Yeah! 1, 2, 3,
Graham's ability to build these communities around people who want to care, who do care, is a really great tool that he has.
That's gotta make it into the film.
Looking at the schedule, looks like some bigger opportunities are going to come up here in the next few months.
Senator Wyden, this is Graham Zimmerman.
I feel like I'm learning how to communicate more effectively on this stuff and more confidently on this stuff so that I can do so in a bigger stage.
Here at the Capitol building in Salem today. We're fired up.
Yeah. So 2020 has been quite a ride thus far. We came home from Michigan and we had a lot of momentum.
Global economic activity has been put into an induced coma.
And everything shut down. And we had to go into a space where we were totally redesigning how we talk to our communities.
All right, I think we're live. Liz, hey everybody. You know, spending time in front of the computer, talking to people, trying to like gather audiences, trying to share information. But like, what are we going to learn from this?
Protests over the death of George Floyd, the black man who died in the custody of a white police officer, have continued in the city now for 6 days and 6 nights, and they have spread well beyond Minneapolis.
A lot of people are having a lot harder time right now than I am. You know, that demonstrates a lot of privilege. I had this realization that I had this blind spot when it came to how social justice and climate intersect in the United States and why one cannot exist without the other.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
And that's something I've been working really hard on. Understanding those intersections in a way that makes the world a better place for everybody. To create a more equitable society. That's what we're trying to get at.
You know, we're taking this time in order to think about our future and the kind of world that we want to leave behind for the next generation.
There are so many things going on in the world right now. This is stuff that's all really important, but we cannot forget about climate because this just continues to matter and is only going to matter more.
And our goal with solving the climate crisis is not to stop traveling, stop heating our homes, because that's not achievable. Nobody wants that. Our goal is to move into a space where we can continue to do these things that inspire us and drive us, but just do so in a carbon neutral or carbon efficient way by crafting systemic change that will be driven by policy and economic incentivization. And that all comes from government. So I think the solution to all of that is to engage with what I would refer to as imperfect advocacy. You know, we all make mistakes. We're always learning. And if we let those imperfections give us permission to totally ignore the climate crisis, then we will never solve this problem.
This work will probably not be finished in my lifetime.
I always forget how to do this.
If I want to continue to drive change, I'm just gonna have to keep working at it. That's kind of where applying the grit and endurance from mountain climbing shows up in advocacy. So, climbing, changing the world, trying to stay sane. Here we go. Members of the Sustainable Energy and Environmental Coalition, thank you for taking the time to meet with us today, particularly given the challenging times we currently find ourselves in. In our current system, we are all imperfect when it comes to climate. And we are finding time and time again that in order to curb emissions, it is not a change in personal actions that is going to move the needle. In fact, what is needed is systemic change to our industries, to our methods for collecting and generating power, and how we transport ourselves and our goods. And we're not just doing this for the climbers or the skiers or just for the mountains, but for every American and every citizen of our world, particularly those that are marginalized, as these are the communities who are most affected by climate change. And we are showing that imperfect advocacy is not only okay, but it is vital. And without it, our only other choice is to sit back and watch the world burn, which I think you will all agree is unacceptable. It is an honor to be able to share my story with you. Thank you.